to my channel, Michelle Gay Science Teacher. In today's video, I'm starting a new series on lesson planning for teachers. In these videos, I will show you different types of resources that you can use with a particular topic. I will share videos, web links, PowerPoints, and any other information that I can share with you. Some of these resources will be free and some will cost a little money. In these videos, I will also demonstrate and experiment with questions that you can use with your classroom. These videos are meant for you when you're doing lesson plans so that you can decide what type of material you would like to use and how you would like to use the experiment with your students. These lesson plans can be used online, at home, or at school. So today we're going to talk about volcanoes. Students love volcanoes, and usually when we think of volcanoes, we think of the eruptions and we think of how they explode and how the lava runs. But today we're going to talk about mapping volcanoes and why it's important that geologists map volcanoes. Students will get a chance to experiment or experience mapping volcanoes and doing a test at the end of their mapping. If you're interested in these type of videos, then stay tuned. If you're not subscribed to my channel, then I hope you will subscribe today so that you will continue to receive notification of my videos. Well, let's get started. As you know from previous videos, I like to use the 5E learning method: engage, explain, explore, evaluate, and elaborate when I'm teaching science. Remember, you don't have to do all of these in one lesson or one day. You can break these apart over a series of time. Anything that I share with you today is not meant to be done in one day. When I plan lessons, I plan them out for the entire week. And so that is a tip for you, that you may do one part of this lesson plan one day and then the experiment on another day. That's one way that you can use this particular video. So I'm going to be sharing with you now some resources online that you can use with your students, and if you just want to use them as background information for yourself as the teacher. Let's get started on resources. One thing I use is this book called Volcanoes by Seymour Simon. This book is a scholastic book, or you can find it on Amazon by another company, but it's the same author. And Mr. Simon, he gives information about volcanoes in different places when they erupted, what would have happened with the community. It's a great resource, and this can be used as an engage. So books are definitely great for engagement. If you do not have this book, I would definitely check the school library. They may have one, or just check with the teammate to see if they have this particular book. When creating lesson plans for science, I like to use a variety of resources to choose from. One particular resource that I use with my students, especially for online learning, is EPIC. EPIC is a online book resource that you can assign student books. Notice here that there are books on different levels on volcanoes around the world and just background information. I'm going to click this one, National Geographic. And with
Hot
EPIC,
rocks.
it actually
When magma
has a speaker. If students don't want to read it, they can actually listen to it. But if they like to read it on their own, they can. And this is easy to use, and this is a good one for background information
on volcanoes that I would assign to my students ahead of time before we would even begin this particular lesson. But you can also use this as an engage. Another resource I like to use is Scholastic Super Science. This is a paid resource that you can use. You can put it online, you can put it on the smartboard, use this article as an explain or as an engage or as an elaboration that you can have students read at the end of an experiment. This particular experiment came from NASA, and I'm linking this particular page that you can use with this experiment. It gives you all the explanations that you need. I created a PowerPoint or Google slide that will have a link that you can use also called Lava Layering. This is a step-by-step resource that you can use and guide your students through the experiment. You can edit this if needed. One more resource on YouTube, you can find a variety of videos for kids on volcanoes that you can introduce the topic. This one is with National Geographic Kids that you can use. There are plenty of resources out there that you can use with your students, whether you're engaging, whether you're elaborating, whether you're explaining. These videos and written materials and books will be very helpful in designing your lesson plans for your students.
The materials you will need are 4 different colors of Play-Doh, and I just have blue, pink, orange, green. You will need some vinegar, a spoon, something to make the cylinder in the volcano. I have a film canister, but I also have a small cup just in if I didn't have the canister that you could use, or this type of cup. I'm going to use the film canister. You will also need some baking soda, some type of marker or pencil so that you can outline with. You need a cardboard, a base for doing the experiment on, and you will need some paper towels to clean up as you do the experiment. Teachers, as the expert, you will go over safety procedures with your students as needed. I do suggest in this experiment that students have on goggles and that you go over about tasting things in this experiment, that they're not to taste them. We're going to start with step 1. First, we're going to put our cylinder in the middle of our box. Then we're going to take our pen, and at the top of my box, I'm going to put an N for north. So that would give me a reference of north, south, east, and west. I'm going to take 1 spoon of baking soda, put it in the cylinder, and then I'm going to pour the vinegar. And at this point you can go over chemical reaction. Make sure I put enough in there. All right. So you can see where the foam is stopping. Okay. So what I'm going to do is dab this, clean it up, and then I'm going to take my marker and outline where it stopped. Okay. Still got a little bit more, so I'm going to get that up. Put my cylinder back. Now, we need to take some we need to take some Play-Doh and make it thin. And shape it around our outline, or inside our outline. Some people like to make their Play-Doh using flour. I find it easier just to go to Dollar Tree and buy some. Usually when I have something like this, I'll tell the students to bring in their Play-Doh for the experiment, and we share. Alright, so that was our first eruption, and that is our first layer of rocks. And so now we're going to conduct it again. I'm going to pour out, so you can have another cup on the side. I'm going to add a little more baking soda. Add the vinegar until it starts to foam. Oops, hit that with my shoulder. All right, okay. So now you can see we have our splatter over here, so I'm going to take my paper towel, just kind of get all that up. Very good. And now I'm going to outline again. Right? Now I'm going to take a different color. Now, what about where it's spilled on top? What should I do there? Well, if there was a lava spill here, I'm going to cover this part out also on top of the green. So now we're getting our layer effect. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get it there. Okay, so there we go. So layer 1, layer 2. Now let's move on to the third one. Let's see what I got left in here. Yeah, oops, wrong one. Okay, let's add a little baking soda again. Add our vinegar. Okay, now look at our spill. You can see that up close. The spill is over on this side and around here. And even to the edge. Get some of this up. I went to the AGI conference in Houston last summer with ExxonMobil, and we went actually to ExxonMobil headquarters, and that's where I learned this particular lesson On earth science, it was wonderful because we got a chance to meet geologists. We had a chance to learn why studying rocks is so important to Exxon and drilling and their purpose for hiring so many geologists. It was actually really a great treat, and they treated the teachers wonderful. It was an all-expense trip. They flew us there, and they took care of us, and so I really enjoyed that. So if you notice, I'm going to be layering on top of the pink because the spill went over the pink even to the edge a little bit. So I've got to cover all of that. And just a little bit on the outside. A little bit more. Now I did not draw my line, but you do want your students to draw theirs. I can see where it's at. So I got a little bit right here. So now we can kind of have an understanding why when geologists go out and take a sample, they're going to get different layers, which is going to be part of our exploration. All right, so we have to do one more. Let's take the cylinder off and we'll get some of this up. What are some other things that you think you could do with your students on volcanoes that I may have not mentioned during this video? Leave me a comment, and also let me know what activities you've actually done on volcanoes before. All right, so that is our last one. Ooh, I poured a lot on that one, but that's okay, because eruptions, volcanic eruptions are different each time, and so this one may have been a big buildup. So I'll let that finish. Get all this up. Okay, so I'm going to outline this one way out here. You can have your students work on this in groups of 3 or in pairs. And if you need to, groups of 4. And just remember, they need to have their mask on in the classroom during this time. All right, so our last color is orange. And I'm going to spread out the orange. And during this time is where I will ask students different questions. When they finish with this map, I will have them walk around and look at each other's map first. And they can't, tell each other what's what. They can just walk around and look. Then after they do that, I will have them come back. And remember, while they're doing this, they need to be filling out this form. But I will also have them come back and draw a picture, final picture of their map. The next day, I won't have them do this the same day, have them put their name on it, but the next day, I will have the students get someone else's map. You can do this, and I kind of explained it earlier, but you will have the students get someone else's map, and then they're going to take a clear straw, and they're going to note what colors they get in the column. and then that you want them to draw the map here and then make their column. Remember, from youngest to oldest. Youngest is on top. That's the last eruption. That's pretty close. So now that the students have their map made, I would end this day with a discussion, and you can decide on the discussion you want to have with your students. And then we will come back the next day and do the second part of this experiment. Now that you've engaged and had your students explore, now it's time that you can explain any background knowledge or any misconceptions that your students may have. You can bring in anything that you like pertaining to volcanoes at this point. If you want to decide if you want to see what the students already know about volcanoes, if you want to show them a video at this point, you definitely could, about volcanoes and how they erupt and different types of volcanoes erupting. That would be great. Also, you can, if you want your students to explain by drawing out things about volcanoes, you can do that. Then once you finish that, you can go into the elaboration. Talk about the job of a geologist. Have your students look up other jobs related to geologists and what they do as scientists and what type of study is geology. So those are some things you can do when you're elaborating. Or you can also have them identify volcanoes in different places and do a research on a particular volcano and present back to the class. Those are just some suggestions. Next would be your evaluation. The entire time the students are doing this exploration, you can evaluate your students by asking them questions, finding out the knowledge that they're learning, what they learned from mapping the volcano, how does mapping affect them, why is it important to map volcanoes, why is it important to even study earth science. These are things that you can be asking them while they're participating in the exploration. Then you can decide on a formal evaluation that you would like to conduct with your students on this. It could be a drawing, or it could be an application where you have a picture, a real picture of a map, and then a real picture of a test sample of the of that particular mapping of the volcano, and ask them questions about that. You can set up stations and have questions at different stations, and students put their answers to that part for each station. So many ways to evaluate. Other than just giving them a quiz or a test, you can come up with other ways to evaluate your students. That is the end of today's video on volcanoes. We will meet again next week, and we will look at another type of earth science lesson plan that I like to conduct with my students. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that the resources are useful and that you can use them. Please leave me a comment below if you have any more questions, or if you just want to add to the conversation of ways that you teach earth science. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel and remember to click that like button, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you.